Hello, hello, good evening, everybody. This is Leontine Oswagwu. Welcome to Unleash Your Destiny with Leontine. Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Uh, Thank you so much for joining me. Welcome, welcome. Come on. I'm going to give it a few minutes for people to start joining. Welcome as you join in. Introduce yourself. Say hello. Hello, ladies. Thank you for joining me. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. I hope you had a great day. I had an amazing day today. It's a great day to be in the land of the living. Praise God. So for those who do not know me, I am Leontine Oswagwu. I am the go-to leadership, mindset, and inner healing coach for Christian women who have a tremendous call on their life, but they need help to overcome fear, inadequacy, insecurity, and I help them get clarity as well and develop a strategy so they can step out and be the transformational leaders that God has called them to be. Welcome to tonight's broadcast. Today, we're going to talk about why transparency is so magnetic. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Hello, I hope you're doing well. Well, I like to start with definitions. So what does transparency mean? Transparency is the open sharing of information with people that God has assigned to you in the context of whatever it is that the mandate is that God has called you to. And in order for people to come on board with whatever it is that we are selling or whatever it is that we are inviting them to participate in, they need to be able to trust us, right? I am a very transparent person because I realized that very early on. And in order for them to trust us, they need to know us. And in order for them to get to know us, we have to open up to them so they can build a connection with us. That is what it's all about. It's about building a connection. And transparency helps facilitate that trust, facilitate that intimacy, and that connection with the people that God has assigned to us. And listen, I have struggled with transparency for years because for those of you who know my story is laden with abuse, with rejection, with fear, with shame, and the simple thought of giving people insight into my brokenness was terrifying to me. So the thought of sharing my life with people was nerve-wracking because I was insecure, because I did not feel safe. Hello, ladies. And I was afraid of being judged. I was afraid of being mocked and ridiculed. I was afraid of being rejected. And many of you can relate to this. And the reason that you haven't stepped out yet, even though you know what God has called you to do, is because you are afraid of being rejected. I was there. And you are asking God for confirmation upon confirmation. That's what I call the Gideon syndrome, right? You see in the story of Gideon, he says how he tested God. He says, I'm going to put the fleece over here. And if the fleece gets wet and the ground stays dry, I know that this is from you. Or I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to put the fleece over there. And if the fleece comes up dry and the ground is wet, I'll know that it is you, Lord. And the truth of the matter is, we know exactly what God said. And many of us had it prophesied over us for years, but we are still stuck. I was there. Put in the chat if you can relate to this, if this is ministering to you in any way. And I had to get to the point where purpose mattered more than me and more to me than the opinion of others. Purpose mattered more to me than what you think or what the other person thought. And I had to get to the point where doing God's will was like oxygen to my body. And I felt like if I didn't move forward, I would literally die. That is the point that I had to get to. And when I got to that point, Nothing else mattered than getting myself out there and doing what God had called me to do. Being criticized no longer mattered. Being seen as incompetent no longer mattered. Being laughed at no longer mattered. The only thing that mattered was the people that the enemy was going to devour if I did not step out and do what God has placed on my heart. So that is the point that I had to get to. And the only things that mattered were the purpose-filled women who have powerful mandates from God, but are stuck in their heart with unprocessed wounds, and they run the risk of never fulfilling their potential because they can't break out of fear, they can't break out of insecurity, and they can't break out of inadequacy or shame. And now when I got to that point, the only people that mattered were you. And I realized that my mandate and my purpose were the oxygen masks that somebody desperately needed to get to in order to survive and thrive. And when I realized that, transparency became a no-brainer. When the pain of remaining stuck far exceeded the pain of becoming vulnerable, I became unstoppable. And listen, when the pain of remaining stuck far way exceeds the pain of you being vulnerable, you will become unstoppable. So I made a decision. Thank you for joining me, ladies. I made a decision to share my wounds so others can be healed, so they can be all that God had called them to be. I made a decision to become relevant to the people who need me by sharing my vulnerabilities. That's what transparency is all about. There's a popular quote that says that sharing is caring. And transparency is about caring about others before you get the opportunity to care for them. That is powerful. It's about caring about others before you get the opportunity to care for them. That's powerful because many of us want God to open doors and we want God to bring people to us, but we forget that transparency is the thing that wins people to our cause, because transparency facilitates trust. So listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it is going to be easy, because it's not. But I will tell you that it's worth it. Will you lose people? Of course you will, because haters will come out of every rock. They will come out of every corner and from under every bush when you step out into purpose. But you will gain more than you lose, because you will become relatable, and relatability becomes attractive, and transparency becomes magnetic. And your transparency will let people know that no matter how tall you stand today, no matter how confident you are today, there are still some kinks in your armor that give people a glimpse into God's glory and into his power to redeem broken vessels. That's powerful. But transparency is going to require honesty. We have to be able to tell the truth, because the truth is the only thing that sets people free. If it is not the truth, it is a lie, and anything that is built upon a lie will eventually crumble. Transparency will also require a measure of mental and emotional stability. Remember, we said in the beginning that transparency is the open sharing of information with the people that God has assigned to us. Now, there is a difference. Listen to me carefully. Now, there is a difference between transparency and indiscretion. All right? There is a difference between transparency and indiscretion, because transparency shows relatability, it shows relevance, while indiscretion shows a lack of judgment and a lack of home training. Did you hear that? Transparency shows relatability and relevance, while indiscretion shows a lack of judgment and a lack of home training. Because transparency is sharing your wounds so people can relate to your experience with the purpose of helping someone come out of their predicament. Indiscretion, on the other hand, is sharing your wounds with unwarranted details that could be offensive to others and don't add value to anyone. Let me give you an example. For transparency, saying I was molested as a child, and as a result of that, I became sexually promiscuous because I was seeking attention in the wrong places. That's powerful. That will minister to somebody. right? And discretion, on the other hand, is saying, I slept with my mother's boyfriend, I slept with my boss, I slept with my husband's best friend. So even though these things may have happened, giving that much detail doesn't add value to anyone. But it has the potential to destroy people and discredit you in the process. So when you say I was molested as a child and I became sexually promiscuous because I was seeking attention in the wrong places, that is enough, right? That is enough. We don't need any graphic details because that does not add value to the story and it can discredit you. So that is what indiscretion is. So there is a fine line that we need to tread in order to remain effective, even in our transparency. It requires maturity and a measure of mental and emotional stability, right? To know what to share, to know when to share it, and to know how much to share. So that is what transparency is. So why is it so magnetic? Why is it so magnetic? It's powerful. We have to define magnetic. Magnetic means possessing something that has the extraordinary power or the ability to attract. It's like a magnet. It draws things and it draws people to you. So transparency is magnetic. It draws things and it draws people to you, right? So what does that do? What does transparency do for us? We're going to recap a little bit of what we talked about already. It gives God the glory, right? It gives God glory. It tells people that if God can do it for us, right, he can do it for you too, because he takes the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. Transparency also makes us relatable, and relatability creates a connection, right? Transparency also shows humility, and we know that God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. Transparency also shows that we care, because as we say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And transparency builds trust with people, because people buy or people associate with people that they trust. And transparency builds that trust. And it is magnetic because transparency is magnetic because when you begin to uncover the thing that you've been trying to hide, like your imperfect marriage, your childhood that was plagued with sexual abuse, the domestic violence, the parents' divorce, when you begin to uncover those things that you have been trying to hide, your messaging becomes therapeutic. Your messaging becomes therapeutic to others because it gives them the permission to show up and take up space the same way you are showing up and taking space too. Transparency is also magnetic because when you open up about the real stuff, about the real stories, especially about the ones that are hard for you to tell, and tell those stories, you become inspiring because most people are hiding from their own stories. Most people are trying to run away from their own stories. And when you open up and you share the real story about yourself, you become inspiring to many people. Transparency is also magnetic because when you begin to share your flaws, when you begin to share your rough edges and your imperfections, you begin to build a brand that no one can replicate. You begin to build a brand that only you have, that no one can copy, no one can compete with. And last but not least, transparency is magnetic because when you embrace transparency and unashamedly step out as yourself in spite of your fears, you become a force to be reckoned with because people cannot help but gravitate towards you because everybody wants to experience what you have experienced. That is what transparency is. And that is why transparency is so magnetic. So ladies, thank you for joining me. Don't be afraid to be transparent with those that God has assigned to you to serve because transparency is magnetic. And if you want to learn more about what I do, what we do, and how we can help you transform from the inside out so you can step out and be the transformational leader that God has called you to be, check out our website and book a call with us so we can chat. It's www.leadingfromwithin.cc. All right. So thank you so much for joining. Comment and let me know how this blessed you. This is it for this week, ladies. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you again next Monday at 7 p.m. for another broadcast of Unleash Your Destiny with Leontine. And next week, we're going to talk about what does empowerment mean and why you can't live without it. All right. God bless you and have an amazing evening.